is now the time to pick up a PlayStation Portal. So, last week, Sony dropped a update for their PlayStation Portal. Is it any good? Well, I'm going to give it a try. So, if you want to access the cloud streaming service for PlayStation Portal, you do need the right tier of PlayStation Plus. So to get the cloud streaming going for yourself, Sony recommend a connection of 7 megabits per second for 720p gaming, or if you want to experience some 1080p gaming, you're going to need at least 13 megabits per second. Right, so here we are. The new update for the PlayStation Portal. Finally, Sony have got the cloud beta. Um, so what's new in this update? Well, as you can see, at the top, we've now got 3 icons. So we've got the ability to connect to our console. We've got the cloud streaming service, providing you're with the right PlayStation Plus tier. And finally, a handy search feature. Okay, and all this is done by using the L1 and L1 buttons. Very easy. But we're going to try out the cloud streaming because that's the big thing with this now, is the fact that, you don't really need a PS5 to play it. So I'm playing the games from my library. So as we can see, here are some of those games. So the first one we'll try is Spider-Man. Quite fast-paced, really. With the swinging and combat. So we'll give the Portal. So that's a great start. So I am playing quite a bit away from my router. So I'm in the conservatory at the back of the house. Picture-wise, as you can see, I don't know if I might be able to pick it up. It is a little bit blurry. So this proves what it's like. So we'll go into this here. Let's continue it. So, whoa, look at that. That is not clear at all. That is one blurry mess. This is the real world of it. There's the response, as you can see. Okay, I guess it's always a bit of a slowdown there. See, these are the limitations. I have got fiber internet, and you'd expect it to be okay with decent coverage around the house. I've got plenty of mesh discs to make the a better network. But yeah, maybe I'm not being doing it justice. See, I'm pressing it now. There we go. Where I am playing at the furthest point of the house, but this is how it might be for you. To real world test. There's no point doing this, right next to my router or to an access point. You might not have that. It's playing all right. Oh, I did press it in and felt like nothing happened. You can see some blocking from the streaming, so that is probably down to the connection. But I will try it in another room of the house. I will be fair. I'm not just going to stay here and slate and say no, it's no good. So I've now changed rooms. As you can see, the battery has gone down a little bit, but let's go to Spider-Man first. Okay. Well, first impression, second impressions, picture is better. Still feel a little bit, I don't know. Is that lag on? Oh, I don't know. Bit of slow down there. So I've tested a few games on the cloud streaming service. So I've tried Doom Eternal, Spider-Man, F124, and eFootball 2025, just to see how the Portal handles these sorts of games. They are quite demanding games. You do need your fast reaction. So this is where the Portal has had a bit of a downfall, really, where it can't play these fast-paced games due to the latency between the servers and the Portal. So what are my thoughts of the new update to the PlayStation Portal? Well, I think it makes it maybe a better buy for some people now. Am I going to be splitting more time between this and my Steam Deck? Highly unlikely. If I want to remote play some games, I'll use the app that I can get on Steam Deck. So Is the Portal worth getting now? I think it depends on your use case. If you're a dad, I think it could be very handy, especially the fact that you don't have to have your PS5 even turned on now. I think the fact that this new update allows users to play select games is really good. A bit annoying that you can't play all your titles. So games like Battlefield and FC 26, you won't be able to play these via cloud streaming. You just have to have your console booted up and then do remote play. The new update for the Portal does bring some great quality of life features to it. The fact that you don't need your PS5 to play it anymore. You can just stream the games remotely from wherever you are. Great. I think this fixes a big gripe that people had about the Portal in the case of you needed your PS5 to be on in rest mode to be able to play your games. Well, yeah, that's gone now because overall thoughts, should you look at getting a PlayStation Portal if you've not got a PS5? I think you should consider it. I think providing you've got a solid internet connection. The Portal isn't really for multiplayer games. It is just for your single player campaigns with quite slow paced action, maybe like your Fallouts, Indiana Jones. Am I going to be using the Portal more now? No. I think once I've experienced the Steam Deck and what it can offer, I just know that that's the right handheld for me. I can't afford to have both. I'd rather sell this as good as it was, and as good as the new update is. I just think the Steam Deck just offers me more, and I think it's something to consider. The Portal at £200 compared to the Steam Deck at £350 for the LCD version. I think it's something that you need to think about. You do need your PlayStation Plus Premium subscription. You might buy a game and it might not even be able to be played via the cloud streaming. So that's always one to check. I'm comparing the Portal to the Steam Deck, and I'm getting a few comments about I can't be comparing that, but they're two handhelds that are available to people, and people have different use cases. So, as a dad, both handhelds do have cons, and I think the Steam Deck has less cons than the Portal. So for an extra £150, is it worth getting a Steam Deck LCD over a PlayStation Portal? And I think it's something that you should really consider. Personally, I just think that the PlayStation Portal isn't as good value as a Steam Deck. For mums and dads who value their gaming time, I just think the Steam Deck just offers that a little bit more. You're playing your games natively. Games can be had for a lot cheaper than PlayStation. So that's one thing to really consider. Yes, the Portal may be cheaper to buy, but then you've got to factor in other costs. The games could be £70. And I think that's one thing to consider is that the games you can play via cloud streaming are only those games that you've purchased digitally. So if you've bought a game via disc, you're not going to play that on the cloud streaming. So I think when you're looking at paying £70 a game, and then you have to factor in the cost of the PS Plus premium service at £120 a year. It's soon going to add up. So the new update for the Portal has arrived. And are you playing your Portal more, or is it still there gathering dust? Let me know in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, and hwyl fawr.